4. Charlie, are you there? Let me see this guy. Charlie.
Yes, I am here.
Do you also have this number 732-993-9697?
Yes,
Oh,
that
you
is
got
me.
like a double agent. All right.
I am on 2 devices. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's we're gonna get started here. I think we're ready. I just want to X you guys out here. What the hell? And Mr. Manfredi, are we good to
Yes.
proceed with who we have here? We don't need anyone else, right?
No, we have a quorum. We are fine to proceed,
So I meant
Director.
any other professionals or guests that we're waiting for.
No, we're fine to proceed.
Is this
Great.
a public meeting or? a
Yeah,
special-
yes, it is. It's a
Yes.
special meeting.
Okay.
Notice of the meeting. I'm going to jump right in here, Chair. Is that okay?
That's perfectly fine.
This meeting of the Board of Commissioners will take place electronically and in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, specifically NJSA 10:4-9.3. Notice of this meeting was given by one public advertisement with sufficient notice herewith to the Home News Tribune in New Jersey. 2, filing advance written notice of this meeting with the city clerk's office. And 3, posting this notice on the public website of the Housing Authority. During the meeting, participants, including members of the public, may be muted by the host. However, there will be an opportunity for them to participate and speak during the meeting and public portion of this meeting where participants will be unmuted at their request. Meeting and time to be reflected, March 19th, 2024. Meeting date and time, 5 p.m. We'll do a roll call before we proceed any further.
Fantastic.
Chair, roll call.
Let's roll.
Chairman Wright,
Yes, here.
Commissioner Medina Hernandez,
Here.
Commissioner Giorgiani,
Here.
Commissioner Walde,
Yes.
Commissioner Caldwell is absent, and Commissioner Pettix.
Present.
Great. I believe we have everyone. 2, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I'm so sorry. Commissioner Dunlap. Commissioner Dunlap. He was the first one on, and I forgot about him. Thank you, Commissioner Dunlap. Apologize for that. Meeting called to order. Pledge of Allegiance. Take a moment. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation.
one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
I think I was only taught that once.
I don't have anything at this time because it's a special meeting for my secretary's report or any committee reports. We're not here for that. New business. I believe we should have public comment, save it for after. It wouldn't be fair to have it before, Chair, unless you differ, so we could save the public comment for after.
That's fine.
Okay. At this time, there's a resolution on the table, resolution number 18, resolution approving and authorizing a site controlled, known as a ground lease contract to Hoffman Housing Urban Renewal Associates LLC, also known as Penrose, for the replacement of the Hoffman Pavilion located at 75 Nielsen Street, New Brunswick, New Jersey. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to my legal counsel. We've been hammering this thing out for months now, but more specifically the last week. Joe, you have a pretty good handle on it. You've educated me on this tremendously. We've done a lot of reading, and we thank the chair for giving us your undivided attention during this time. And all of you are great volunteers, but Zach, you really did a tremendous job keeping us on point with this. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Joe. Thank you so much. Enlighten us, Joe.
Sure. Okay. So board members, before you this evening is an application by Penrose regarding an older site that most of you may know. Some of you were here at the time, called Hoffman Pavilion, 75 Nielsen Street. And let me give you a little background on this. and let you know what we've been working on with Penrose. This project was originally approved by the Housing Authority back in 2009. This is not a typical redevelopment site. This is property owned by the Housing Authority, subject to a HUD declaration of trust, which is how the Housing Authority owns all of its property. As you know, the federal government places a restriction in our title, and we could do nothing without HUD's approval in terms of redevelopment. Back then, there was a building on the property that was demolished, and years have gone by, as you know, and now Penrose has essentially come back to us to say we now want to develop that site, and they are actively applying for funding from the state government to secure funds to construct it. The important part of this is that the original developers agreement back in 2009 has now effectively lapsed. And they've changed the concept of this project slightly based on the passage of years, the cost of construction, but a couple items remain the same. Number one, it is all affordable. They are working out their final application right now, which is due at the end of May, May 23rd, to the state of New Jersey Housing Mortgage Finance Agency for tax credit financing for the project. Now, one of the things they must have in order to make that application is what's commonly called site control, meaning they have to have some legal document from the Housing Authority that allows them to say, if this board approves this, and if HUD approves this development, it will go forward. Without that, they can't proceed to apply for their financing. So just to be clear, what they're asking the board for tonight is a legal document that gives them some form of control over this site so they can apply for financing. Now, our concern immediately for you as the Housing Authority was this. Wait a minute now. This deal has changed since 2009. How has it changed? What does it involve? And today, and the documents that the director sent to you this afternoon show how Penrose is currently looking at this project from a financing standpoint, and from what they're telling the state of New Jersey, they're seeking funding for. Since we just heard that today, our position was several-fold. Number one, we do have to go back to HUD because time has lapsed and there's been some changes, and namely the changes that they want to see if they can put more project-based vouchers into the transaction, which again, we would need HUD's approval to do. They also want to change the balance between what we call public housing units and project-based units. So after they're asking for you to go ahead and basically sign an agreement to give them a lease, we think that would be premature at this point. But what you can do is this. You could give them an option for the property to lease it in the future, subject to HUD approval and then your approval. They would have to come back to the board with the final plan for this site and then give you the right to say, yes, we agree, or no, we don't agree. Because candidly, I can't say as council, you should agree to anything that's binding at this point, since we've had a lapse of over a decade and we've had changes from the original agreement, which HUD must approve. So what we sort of worked out was a recommendation, subject obviously to your questions and consideration, that allows them to apply for the funding, but preserves the right. Number one, we have to go to HUD and get HUD to say yes. And number two, you as the board have to see what the final incarnation of this will look like on that site. So that's the big picture. They wanted, everything today. And what we kind of said was, wait a minute, we cannot do that until we know exactly what the project is. Even they haven't worked out every aspect of it because they're dealing with enhanced construction costs and they're dealing with their application to the state of New Jersey. And one of the things we'd like to do is make sure they work that out. We come back to you with it, and we're going to need HUD to approve it. So any site control document you give them, we envision being at best an option for a lease subject to all the contingencies I've indicated. Your approval, final approval on all aspects, and definitively the US government's approval as well, because we have to have that since this projection of what the project would look like has changed from 2009. Is there anything, Dan or Chair, you want to add to that?
I'm sorry, I was on mute. That is the most important, HUD's approval, because we are mandated under HUD. And we have to take our orders from them, and we take that very seriously. You don't want to have a problem later on coming back, getting audited, and so on. But I think the presentation was thought out. It's you know, for lack of a better phrase, it's for the people we're supposed to serve. And
Yes.
that's what the chair and I were concerned about. We've seen many of these projects go a different direction, but I don't think it's that much of a lift to go ahead and approve a site control, to give them the opportunity to go out and get the rest of the funding from the state, which is all lined up. And we have a definitive date, right? A timeline, an
Yes.
end date. And that's December 15th, I believe. Correct, Counselor?
Right. Their deadline to apply is May, but then it takes them time to be notified. So we need to have an expiration on this document. And as we indicated in discussions with them, it would also be contingent upon HUD approval and the board approval. Because I think not speaking for you, but what you need to see is the entire project in all its concrete terms. You saw what they sent over today, but we'd obviously like to have that in complete final format before you give your approval for the project to proceed.
Right. At this time, are there any questions, Chair? Maybe you can shake the other commissioners a little bit for questions.
No, Craig had his-
I just have one question. You said the original approval was back in 2009. What's
Yes.
happened or what hasn't happened since 2009?
It's a long.
We asked that
conversation.
question very directly.
Yeah.
Right, Dan and Chair,
We did.
we've had
We
some
both did.
direct
Yes.
discussions. Yeah. Go ahead, Dan. Yeah,
I
we
think
put it to them.
we put it to them. They came back at us, construction costs, different projects. They weren't ready, demolition costs, what direction we were going in. Look, a lot of things have changed from 2009 to present, right? Downtown did not look like it does now. I think there was a lot of egg on some faces, and we are where we are today. And if we're here to service the people that we're supposed to service, this is a good opportunity. This is a good project. If everything goes, we're not looking for any more delays. I've spoken to some commissioners. I think once they knew we were serious, right, Counselor, that December 15th is the day.
Yeah, we had a very, very candid and very direct discussion with them as recently as this morning, which the chair participated in. And we really dug underneath a lot of their answers because we know we needed it. And so it's what the director indicated. They are now trying to move forward with it. But I think, as we said, it's imperative that before anything is approved with finality, it come back to you. And we obviously need to go back to HUD and say, okay, here's what was committed to with HUD's approval in 2009. Here's what funds were provided back then. So what will you approve now? And again, the key here, it is all affordable. Some of the nuances here are just the question of whether they have more PHA funded units versus voucher units. We will have one waiting list, a combined voucher public housing list. So in either event, our residents will be served by having a certain number of units earmarked for our current public housing waiting list residents.
And that's a great question, Commissioner Pettix. Great question.
I have two questions. One is, don't they need a site control to apply for tax credits?
They do. And so what we thought about was originally what they wanted was an outright, what they called an agreement to agree. So they sent over a new ground lease that said, you're granting them a ground lease today, and that the board will agree in the future to execute another lease. I had an objection to that. As director and the chair can tell you, we all did, because we said that's very vague. And how can I agree today to a lease when you as a board are not being given the terms and conditions of that lease, and the project has changed from its original incarnation? So we said, I don't believe that will be acceptable. Legally, it's not acceptable. So I think the best we could do to advance their ability to apply for their funding, which is important to them, and it's important to the success of this project and getting it off the ground, is to say, you can have an option for a lease, but it is going to have contingencies in it. And we went through those contingencies today. And the contingencies will be first and foremost approval from HUD, because this board can't even act until HUD says they're okay with the changes from the 2009. And again, from what we can see, those changes might be nominal, HUD may be fine with it, but they have to say yes. And then that has to come back to you for final approval. We think those are two extremely important items. And I did ask the question because, site control can be a little tricky with the HMFA, but in our experience, options have been sufficient to satisfy the site control requirement.
With the tax credit?
Yes,
They're
and in
applying
fact,
for, right?
we really got into the details with them because they wanted very broad-based contingencies, and we said, no, we need very specific contingencies because we need to make it clear that we need those two primary approvals, which is HUD and the board.
Okay, can they apply without HUD approval of their financing? I don't
So
think-
that's a good point because that came up today because I was looking at the existing MDA and telling them, be careful, what are you going to apply for here? It has to substantially meet the original MDA. So what they did do was they have not changed the number of units in terms of PHA versus voucher. What they just want to change is the balance at this point between how many units will be what we call PHA ACC units, which means they receive an operating subsidy for those units, just like we do as the housing authority from HUD, versus what will be project-based vouchers. The benefit to the housing authority is that any resident living in either a PHA or project-based unit is still paying 30% of their augmented income as rent. So we're providing our mission of affording affordable housing to individuals on our waiting list. It makes a difference for the developer on the budget side, and it makes a difference for their grant.
Is there a HUD capital funding coming in to this project? Not rental, capital, construction or, no?
No, the funding that they've indicated to us they're applying for is strictly straightforward on the tax credits under the Aspire program, is what they mentioned today to the chair and to the director and I.
Okay, that won't cover 100%. Where are they going to get the rest of the money? Have they indicated?
So I believe they have a portion of owner equity, and remember the property is vacant at this point, so there's no demolition costs at this time.
Okay.
So that's going to be the difference in the total construction costs, which obviously are significant now, and what grant funding they're going to be able to secure from the low-income housing tax credit programs.
Okay. On the rental side, I think it's a total of 26, which might be able to get rental subsidy. What about the rest? Are they 30% of their income?
So we discussed that. So the original agreement had two aspects to it. It had the Providence project and it had Hoffman Pavilion.
Yeah.
And back in 2009, HUD allowed $1 million to be provided to Penrose to undertake the demolition. When that happens, HUD grants what's called replacement housing factor funds for that purpose, but then they require that we have a minimum number of public housing units, which effectively means what you just said, Commissioner, that for those public housing units, residents will come from our waiting list, be able to live there, and pay 30% of their income. So 26 was the number. What they were seeking to do was alter that because there was also, in addition to that, going to be approximately 14 project-based vouchers. Now, for our residents, it effectively means the same, that our residents coming from our waiting list are going to pay 30% of their adjusted income in the form of rent. So it serves the population that we're striving to provide affordable housing for. What it means to the developer is that there's more income from the project-based voucher than there is from the public housing units. But again, the predominant concern is HUD's approval and still ensuring that we are able to provide those number of units for individuals coming from our waiting list. And the remainder will be the HMFA affordable rents, just so everyone knows they are all affordable. It's just a different definition of affordable. It's going to be the tax credit rent definition for affordable.
That's outside those two, outside the HUD subsidized units, right?
Yes, exactly. That will be no rental subsidy, but the residents will pay the reduced rent for this area based on their median income. And there'll be also what we, as you know, income targeting. They'll use the average median income under the HMFA guidelines to identify income eligible citizens to live in the development.
Thank you.
Chair.
Yeah, those were my questions.
Yeah, I don't have very many questions. I was a part of all these conversations leading up to it, but I think the main takeaway here is that it's an option. It's an option. It's contingent upon them getting financing, and we still retain control. We're not agreeing to anything. We're not turning over property. We're going to look at the final product, and then it's subject to the review of council and ourselves. So, and we have a deadline. All right. We do want to see the housing be built. They are a large company. They're capable of doing it. Financing having been what it was, and now we're on an accelerated timeline to show and tell. So that's what we're voting on right now.
Great.
And I would just add to what the chair said, even then, we're going to have two other conditions in it, that even the option itself be subject to approval by the director and myself to make sure that we are achieving what the board is considering this evening and that you're legally protected.
Commissioner Medina Hernandez,
Yes.
any questions?
No, Jurgi, the questions that I was gonna ask, he went ahead and he asked, he jumped ahead of me,
Oh,
so
he
it's fine.
hijacked them, huh?
I read your mind.
Commissioner Dunlap,
He asked the questions.
Commissioner Dunlap,
Question regarding, you said something about the list. Regarding this recipient to the residents that will have the
Can't hear.
opportunity to be evicted.
I'm having trouble
Yeah.
hearing him.
Can you hear me now?
A little better.
No, Mike. Okay, let's try this again. My question would be, regarding the list of the recipients or the residents who have an opportunity to live here, how would that be played out, or how would they go about that? Just, it's gonna be in the
he said an
newspaper?
opportunity to live there for people to live there. Was that correct, Commissioner
Yeah.
Dunlap?
How would we be constructing that list of residents that have an opportunity
Oh.
to take advantage of this new housing?
Right. So for the assisted units, which Commissioner Walde mentioned, we will have a combined waiting list of public housing and Section 8 individuals who are on that list. Those will be for the rental assisted units. The developer will maintain a separate list for individuals eligible for the tax credit units. And we also discussed some preferences today too, to ensure. So for example, on our Section 8 side, we can go one step further by assuring that individuals who maybe currently live in any form of what's HUD defines as substandard housing would have a preference to go into the new building. So that's another way we could affect meeting the need for this new development. We are allowed to amend our Section 8 admin plan to make that a requirement. And that will assist us to even potentially be able to have some of our public housing residents move into the project-based units.
So are we looking at, and so this is specifically again for our senior community, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Giorgiani, I didn't want you to think I forgot about you.
Nah, I'm fine. I'm cool.
Okay, Chair?
All right.
Well, you
Let's
know
go.
what we're asking your members, you know what we're asking you and the members, so are we crystal clear on everything, Commissioner?
So can you say again the two,
Yes.
Manfredi,
So-
please? Can you say that again?
Yes, so what I would say is before the board this evening, and I believe the director sent it out in the form of the resolution in the notice, but what I would say is it's a resolution to provide Penrose Corporation or their subsidiary with site control for Hoffman Pavilion, subject to the following contingencies. First and foremost will be HUD approval on any changes from the original 2009 Master Development Agreement. Secondly, will be final approval of the Board of Commissioners to those changes. In addition to that, the option agreement itself will have an expiration of December 15th, which the director indicated, which would mean that Penrose has to achieve some commitment on its funding, as well as HUD approval, as we just said, and this board's approval by then. And just to talk it out, and if those items are satisfactory, then the board could give a full lease for the property. And as I said, and council approval and director approval on the actual option agreement. So those would be the contingencies. So you'd be approving a temporary site control lease option to Penrose Corporation for 75 Nielsen, the Hoffman site, subject to HUD approval, final board approval before you enter into any long-term lease on all the terms and conditions, as well as the fact that this option will expire on December 15th, 2024 of its own accord, unless Penrose has secured financing, HUD has approved it, and the board has found all the details of the project satisfactory.
So, if they
Extreme.
missed their deadline again, sorry, Chair, if they missed their deadline again, it's right back to us and we can do.
Right.
And say whoever
Yeah,
we want.
it will end, the agreement will end of its own accord. The option will end if those contingencies are not met, meaning that what this really will just give them is the opportunity to go to the HMFA and say, okay, we have an option to lease this property. We want to apply for financing. However, we will not enter into any final lease unless HUD approves the changes,
Yes.
the board approves what the final incarnation of the project is, and all other items are satisfactory. And even the option itself will not go out unless the director and I are both satisfied with the language. So it's really just a resolution of the board to provide us an option for a lease on this site to expire by December 23rd, 2024, with no final lease being entered into without HUD approval and board final approval.
Okay. Now, you said the deadline is December 2024?
I
This
think
year.
today they told us, right, Director, they said that their deadline to apply for financing was
Oh,
late
good.
May,
Yeah.
but that they would have received word back from the HMFA. I believe, Director, they gave us the date, if I'm correct, of December 15th, right?
I kind of
Yeah,
pushed
you-
it there, but yes.
You pushed it, but we
they
needed
agreed to
a
that
date.
Okay,
Yeah.
because
So-
they usually push the allocation. Hopefully they have the, the exact date for the allocation. Because otherwise
yes.
they have to come back to
Commissioner
us.
Commissioner Walde, I'm sorry, they showed us the entire timeline.
Okay,
That would be done,
Yes.
their wish list, right?
Yeah.
Is to be done this year, prior to December. Then we agreed, that December 15th would be the line in the sand.
Oh, no, I know that. Sometimes, I used to work there. That's why the allocation period might change. So they might have to come back to extend the December, 25th or
I don't
15th?
think, listen,
15th.
they've had a lot of years to do
That's
this.
since 2009 to extend
Yeah,
it again.
we were
No,
pretty
no,
clear. The
This
chair
is the
will
new
tell you.
That's been the
allocation.
problem.
No,
That's been the
this is the new
problem.
allocation, it's not the 2009, it's a new allocation, and they might change the dates. That's why I was worried about.
So remember, Aspire went out the window last year. They were talking about it. Now they came back with Aspire and rah, everybody wants to do the ribbon cutting and all that stuff. But let's hope that the funding is right and that HUD
Okay.
approve. I mean, listen, they've got a lot of hurdles. And I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but they've got a lot of hurdles. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
This is a small piece of what we're trying to do and give them access to go and hopefully get their funding. If
No, I
not,
just want to remind, like, we should be ready to extend the date in case the allocation date changes, at HMFA. That's,
okay,
I'm just.
we'll cross that bridge when we get to it,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Mr.
So the
Mayor,
resolution before the board is to approve a one-time, to approve a option to lease the property for site control to Penrose Corporation with an expiration date of December 15th, 2024, with no final lease to be entered into without HUD approval and the board's final approval.
great. I'll need a motion in a second.
Motion.
Second,
I'll second it,
All
or Yesenia, you can second it.
Second by Yesenia. Chairman Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Walde,
Yes.
Commissioner Medina Hernandez,
yes.
Commissioner Petix,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap,
Yes.
Commissioner Giorgiani,
Yes.
Chair, Council, I was in my haste of rushing, I never opened it up to public comment.
Oh, that's right,
Okay, we can
before
do
we
it.
voted.
We're gonna come back to this. I see someone's hand up, which I believe is Charlie's. And I did rush it. I apologize for that. And
Sure. Walk it
hopefully
back.
you guys will forgive
So-
me on St. Joseph's Day. So let me back this up. I'll repeat this, and we're gonna open this up, Chair, to the public right now.
So that
Perfectly.
voting doesn't, okay,
It does not count.
doesn't count.
No. Open for public comment.
All on hands raised.
Hi there, Charlie Cradaville, New Brunswick today. Wanted to start by saying thank you to the executive director for informing me of this meeting. That's a proactive thing to do. You recognize that I'm a frequent attendee, and probably would have wanted to know about it. So I thank you for that courtesy. I do have to raise an objection, though, to the notice that was put on the record at the top of the meeting. I do not believe notice of this meeting is on the Housing Authority's public website. NewBrunswickHousing.org is where I believe that website is, and I don't see an agenda, I don't see a notice, I don't see anything. So I was able to get into the meeting, and again, I thank Mr. Toto for that, but I struggle to think of how a member of the public is supposed to find the link to join the board Zoom meeting. And so I wanted to start by raising that concern and ask, is there something wrong with the website? What is the reason that this isn't on there?
You want me to? I can answer that, Chair.
Go ahead.
So we paid for it to be publicly advertised through the Gannett News Agency, City Clerk's office, as they always do. They posted it. I came to find out this weekend that my new IT company that we brought in, Manish Patel, very competent, unfortunately could not access it because he did not have some sort of passcode username to the Sonic wall. He had a problem going to back channels. It was a mess, to say the least. Legal counsel and I are working on sending out notification to the previous IT people why this wasn't done. That's all I can tell you. I think we've advertised it through as many channels as we could. We attempted. I did not get on our website to see if it was there, but I believe that the public through the city and the newspaper, it was advertised appropriately there.
Thank you for that. And I do agree that there was a notice in the paper, and I do agree that I take you at your word that you sent it to the city clerk.
I got confirmation on that. Yep.
Yeah, but just want to the record to reflect that the third part of the notice that was put on the record that this was posted to the public website is not accurate. There's no notice on the public website, and I do want to just raise that there's other outlets the city uses to publish meetings, like their Hub City News email blast. It was not included in there. The city website includes Housing Authority meetings on the events calendar. So your meeting next Wednesday is on there, but this one is not. So, I think there's a concern here about transparency and information about meetings. And frankly, the Housing Authority website has been lacking for a long time. So if somebody new is taking it over, I view that as a good thing. But
Yep.
at the moment, this is a real problem because, of course, I'm on because Mr. Toto told me about the meeting, but the general public is probably not able to find out about it like they should. So I'll
Well,
move
Charlie,
on to.
I don't mean to interrupt you on your time, but I beg to differ. Not a lot of people get on our website from the tracking of it, from the numbers I get, but I think there was sufficient notice. Those other hubs are a little more prominent than our website to get to. And yes, that's our goal. The chair and I spoke at length about this and how we are going to expand our website. And I think the individual I brought in. Hello?
Yeah,
Sorry. I don't know. I heard some static.
a little feedback.
I don't want to get into a debate with you, Charlie, but I think I don't know. Maybe all I can do is put it out there. It went out. I thought the coverage was good. I I don't think people are hitting our website all the time. It's not Amazon, Google, and so on and so on. But you know, you're gonna have to do what you have to do. I think I was pretty transparent with you. I didn't have to tell you. I brought it to your attention, and I think I did it this weekend, and go from there. I mean, I'll take my lumps, I
Yeah.
guess. But this is a
No,
good
hey, and
thing, man. This is a good project, and we want to give these people the opportunity to go get their funding. I hope you're not going to be a hindrance of it, because everything you tell me about, you care about people in public housing, and you care about the down and out and people that, you know, you're the first one to champion and scream that uh, we need to have more affordable housing in New Brunswick. There's not enough. There's always market rate, high rate, this rate, that rate. We're next New York City. So here you go. I mean, you got to get on board with us. So we'd like to see you on board. I don't know about this
well,
Hub City, but if you tell me Hub City's legit, I'll start advertising there.
oh, yeah, no, just to be clear, that's the city government sending out an email blast to everyone. And I want to just be clear. I'm not, yeah, definitely not looking for a debate. I'm here to help, and I certainly appreciate the, you know, accessibility and candor that you've had with me so far. And, you know, frankly, I'd like to have a meeting where we can talk more about how to get the word out about the work the authority does, including the meetings. But, you know, I've said enough about the notice. I think my objection was noted, and I just wanted to speak about the issue that you're apparently, you know, poised to vote for the item on the agenda. And yeah, I think that, you know, this is a company that has cost the housing authority, you know, a significant asset. They've deprived you of this property for now over a decade. That something could have been happening, whether it was, you know, put to some use or you know, transferred, or you know, something could have been done with it, but they kind of held this agency back for a long time. So I'm, you know, of course, hesitant to give them what they want or reward that kind of behavior. But I, you know, certainly recognize all the discussion that's gone into this, and appreciate that it appears, you know, folks are advocating for being tougher on them than you have been in the past, and also insisting on you know, timelines for a change, and actually making it, you know, making them be accountable. But I guess, you know, one question I do have, and it's still a mystery to me, is why now? Why, you know, this particular Tuesday? Why is there a special meeting for this? Is there something that couldn't have waited till next Wednesday? I'm just kind of curious why this is broken out into a separate meeting.
Tax credit application, I think.
Yeah. Thanks, Yurgo. So these guys have a lot of obstacles in front of them, and why continue if we're not going to go ahead and vote on this and give them the ground lease or give them site control? They're just going to fold up and go home, right? So they were asking me, and I was an interim director for 4.5 months, and I didn't feel comfortable doing it. And I had the authority to do it. I didn't feel comfortable. I wanted to bring this to the board. So in December, I pushed it off to January, then I was made official. So we put them on the next available slot, and it was only fair for them to give us an update, which you were part of, and you heard the update in regards to that Hoffman Pavilion site. And then the board, in fairness to them, is not going to, no knee-jerk reaction, and they needed time to absorb it. At which time they kept peppering me, and rightfully so, all developers should do that. Time is money in their business, right? And I said, I understand. I'll try to get. The last thing I want to do is have another meeting. You know, it's not like I don't have enough meetings scheduled during the month between Franklin and New Brunswick. So we pulled it together, and I felt it was necessary, and I asked the board to entertain it. So this was my doing, not their doing. Some board members wanted to wait, and I think it was only fair to Penrose at the time to either, you know, pull up your stakes and go somewhere else, or give them an answer. And we're about to give them the answer now. So that's it, Charlie.
Okay, well, I think that's I've said my piece, and so thank you for hearing me out, and thank you again for inviting me to the meeting.
Thanks, Charlie.
All
Chair,
right.
any other comments from the public? If not, we'll close public comment.
Okay, motion to close public comment.
Motion by
I'll make a
Chair.
motion.
And then second by
Giorgiani.
Giorgiani. Roll call. Chairman Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Giorgiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Medina Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Walde,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap,
Yes.
and Commissioner Pettix. Commissioner Pettix.
Yes, yes.
All right, thanks. I like to put the rookie at the bottom. So there he goes. All right, now we're moving to the actual vote. And I apologize again. Okay, so we're gonna move. I'll need a motion in a second. Mr. Manfredi, we're ready to proceed on this?
We are. So the resolution before the board, sorry, just to repeat it for the record.
Yes.
Is to provide a site control to Penrose Corporation in the form of a option to lease, which will be entered into subject to board approval today, executive director and council approval with an expiration date of December 15th, 2024, with no final lease to be entered unless and until the Housing Authority secures HUD approval and final approval of the Board of Commissioners.
Well said. Chair, I'll need a motion in a second on the official vote.
Motion.
Second.
Dina Hernandez, second. Great. Roll call. Chair Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Medina Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Walde,
Yes.
Commissioner Giorgiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap,
Yes.
Commissioner Pettix.
Yes.
Great. Let the record reflect on the last two motions that Mr. Caldwell was absent. He had to attend a serious business. Motion passes. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys all soon. And
Thank you.
Joe Manfredi, great job.
Motion to
today.
adjourn.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have-
Need a
we
motion
don't
to
need a
adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, okay.
I'll
all
make
right.
the
Yes.
motion.
I'll
Motion to
second.
adjourn.
Mr. Pettix.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn. Moved by
I
Mr.
can
Pettix.
understand Mr. Manfredi, he gets paid by the hour, but the rest of
Yeah,
us want
we
to
have
go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dina
for a
Hernandez.
second.
Second, sorry. Roll call. Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Medina Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Walde,
Yes.
Commissioner Giorgiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap.
It's gone.
No, he's
Yeah.
here.
No, he's still
Oh,
there.
I heard you, Mr. Dunlap. Thank you. And Commissioner Pettix.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. Have a good
Okay.
one.
Thank you,
Joe.
Everyone.
Have a good
All right.
evening.
Good evening.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Great
All
job.
right,
Thanks,
take care.
Commissioners.